Interview skills to set you apart. So in this section, we're going to talk about preparation for the interview, what to do during the interview, questions to ask in the interview and things to avoid asking, and the closer. Again, remember they say like first impressions are important, but last impressions are also very important. And so I'll take you through some good ideas around those. So as I mentioned previously, prospective employers want a passion for the role and the industry. So they want you to be enthusiastic, not to the point where you're like annoying, but just to show that you actually got some interest in it. And particularly passion for the industry, to show that you've done other work in the industry, you've done some volunteering, work experience, things like that, to show that you've done more than just what you've had to do, if that makes sense. So doing things like in our courses where you're working with real clients and things like that, that actually helps to stand you in good stead. And the reason I put it in there, because I've done research with employers and they've said that examples from student examples in their folios of real world examples with real clients actually means more and has a lot more clout than just the hypothetical assignments that some students do at uni. So that's why I include it in there. They want advanced writing skills, and that's why I kept saying, your grammar, spelling, punctuation is so important, and they want you to be able to write not only accurately, but they want you to be able to write for a range of different audiences and a range of different platforms and communication channels. That's what they're looking for. Next is the highly developed interpersonal skills. So this means that you are more likely to pick up the phone or go and see someone face-to-face or do a Zoom, because we can't really do face-to-face at the moment, than send them an email. So, and I say this because in the past, when I was running the internship program at Monash Uni, there were instances where students they were sitting next to the people they need to communicate with, and they would email them rather than actually turning and having a conversation. And so people want people, if that makes sense. So even if you're a bit shy, it is just practice. Like I used to be very shy, couldn't you believe it, particularly when I was in my early 20s, and it took me a long time to build my confidence in interacting with people. But it was more about, I had to just fake it till I made it, to be honest. I had to pretend that I was confident until I was. And eventually one day I was confident. I wouldn't even say confident. I just felt like it didn't bother me so much anymore. And I was comfortable in interacting with other people. So they want people who will pick up the phone and have a conversation. Email is good as a follow-up. So sometimes it's better to pick up the phone and then follow up with an email saying what you discussed and what you both agreed to do. And then a sound knowledge of social media. And this was in so many different industries. They really wanted graduates who knew what to do on social media, because still there are so many organizations that still don't know what to do. So for those of you who've studied social media, you're already leading the way in that respect. Okay, so preparation. Research the company. So they're going to ask you questions in there about that you at least know what the company does, that you know what products and services they have, that you know who some of their clients are, and you've looked at their website, you've looked at their social media channels. So you need to do this before every interview to better understand the organization. As I said before, looking at their values and their mission, and all that stuff is on their website. So making sure that you understand who and the people in the organization are. So do that. This next one is something that has worked an absolute treat for me and for other people that I've talked about it with. So what I've done is I've developed, before the interview, looking at the role I'm going for, I've developed like a handout with 5 ideas related to the role that might be of use. So I think in when I was going for the job at Neighbours, what I did is I looked, this was well before social media, but I looked at their website, and so I said, you know, maybe we could do this, because my role was really about engaging with the fans who are in the UK. So I wrote down ideas about maybe we could have this competition, you know, just ideas, and designed it in a nice handout. And I had my contact details on it as well. So I prepared that for the interview. I had a folio of my work, so my best work, and it doesn't have to be huge, but you know, maybe 5 pieces of your best work. So it could be, if you're going for a social media role, it could be like some social media content. If you're going for another communication role, like when I was working in PR, I'd put in media releases and examples of how those media releases were picked up by mainstream media. You know, just some ideas, again, that evidence to show off your skills and your achievements. What you wear is, as I said, first impressions, last impressions, all important. Wear a professional outfit, but don't wear things like, if you're having an interview in person, which I'm sure will happen again once restrictions ease, don't buy new shoes and wear them and they're killing you, because you know you're going to have a look on your face that looks like you don't want to be there, when really just your feet are hurting. And it's really hard to relax and be comfortable when your feet hurt. So you can look professional but be comfortable, so that you can, you know, give off a really relaxed and friendly persona. And because you don't want them, the people interviewing you, to think you're not interested or you don't want to be there, when really, you know, it's just because your pants are too tight. And I only say this, like, I haven't done this, but I've heard stories. So yeah, so please, professional but comfortable. And professional means it's always better to dress up than dress down for an interview. So I think I've mentioned this before, where I took a student when I was at Monash to a prospective internship host at the local council, and she rocked up Monday morning to go to this interview wearing a sequined boob tube. So don't do that. So look professional, you know, and professional, it just means that you're that you could basically fit in a corporate situation. So it's good to understand the culture of the company, but even then, it's better to slightly dress up. If they're very laid back, you know, whatever you like sort of company, just make sure that you look, you know, presentable, not too laid back. So you look neat and tidy and professional. Before you go in, and in the lead up to the interview, think of some examples, because they will ask you these sorts of questions. So tell me, Yvette, tell me a time when you overcame a challenge. You know, you're going to get these questions, so you don't have to answer Yvette. I'm just using you as an example. So have them ready, have some examples ready of when you overcame a challenge. And it can be in a workplace environment. It could also be something to do with uni, you know, just something that would be relevant or relate to the job that you're going for, or show the skills and the expertise that they're looking for. It might be, tell us a time where you made a positive difference or worked as a team, or, you know, things like that. Think up some ready-made scenarios, because the best thing you can do is actually tell a story, and tell your story that's genuine, because it's happened to you, and it's a good time there where you can really show off your skills and your experience. So be prepared with some examples ready to go. The other thing is, if you're meeting at you're actually meeting at an office or something like that for the interview, make sure there's plenty of time to arrive there. What I've done in the past is I've actually had a trial run a few days before, particularly if I've never been, I don't know the area, or I'm using public transport for the first time. I have a trial run, go on a little recce and see how long it takes. And then I even allow extra time for the day, because there can be issues with traffic. You know, some public transport can be cancelled, things like that. So just give yourself enough time, because not only does it look bad if you arrive late, but it also looks not so great if you're sort of rushing to get there on time, and you walk in, you're like, you want to walk in and be cool and calm and collected. So make sure you give yourself enough time to get there. Now, during the interview, good piece of advice, breathe. So I don't know about you, but sometimes, and I've done this in lectures, particularly when I get very excited about what I'm talking about, I forget to breathe, and then I end up going, and I speak super quickly as well, particularly if I'm really nervous. So when they ask you a question, you don't have to launch into your answer. Take a few seconds, breathe in, breathe out, collect yourself, and then respond. So don't react with your answer, respond. Remember, cool, calm, and collected. You want to give across an aura that you are warm and enthusiastic. So, but as I said, not over the top so that you're annoying, but just show that you're really interested and positive and friendly, and interested in the role. So read the room. But normally, like, so I've been in front of some really tough panels before where they're just deadpan, and it doesn't mean you have to be deadpan. You may not want to crack jokes, but you can still be warm and friendly and positive and upbeat with your responses. And yeah, I said that before about just slowing down. If you have a tendency to speak quickly, like I do, just try and be mindful of that, and just slow down the way that you're speaking. Not so that it's a monotone and it's really boring, but just so that people can digest what you're trying to say. As I said before, never say that you can't do something or that you've never performed it, because the criteria will show you what they're looking for. And as I said, like the example I gave you with Dreamweaver, if it's a sort of a software or something like that you haven't done before, haven't used before, just go and have a little play with it beforehand. And so, as I said in that interview, I said I have some experience with that, but it won't take me long to refamiliarize myself with that. So never say that you can't do it or you haven't done it. So, or try and find examples that are very similar to what they're asking for. And you'll know the key selection criteria before you go in, so you'll be able to prepare for that. Now, questions to ask. A good question to ask is, how will you measure my success in this role? So, and a good friend of mine asks this, and I'm sharing it from him. And this shows you that you're really interested in delivering for them, but also understanding what success means to them, so that you can then provide that and rise to that. So asking them to actually articulate what it would mean to complete this role successfully. Another question, because what normally happens at the end of the interview, they'll say, without fail, do you have any questions for us? And so normally, if you're like, no, like this helps to just keep it going and show that you actually, you do. Like you've got some really thoughtful, considered questions about the role. So another could be, what do you think are the most important qualities for someone to excel in this role? So you're not really asking here about the tasks and the technical side. You're talking about the qualities of the person and what that will mean. Then you could even ask them, what do you like best about working for this company? Because then that, it helps to build some connection with them and find out more about, what they think is great about the company. Then you can also ask, what are the next steps in the interview process? So I would ask one of these earlier ones first before you move on to this final one. Questions to avoid in the interview. What is the pay? So in many job interviews, they actually have the pay range already. Don't ask about the pay until if you get the job, that's when you discuss the pay. So, and the thing is, if you're offered the job and the pay doesn't suit you, don't take it. You know, always be willing to walk away. The most important, thing about negotiation is always being willing to walk away, because sometimes they come back and make the offer that you want. So don't ask that in the interview, because it shows that you're really just interested in the money. So you don't want to give across that impression. Don't ask how much annual leave you get. So in the job either, they'll give you that information when you'll get that information when you're offered the job and you're discussing the terms. So just hold off on that. If you've booked a holiday, you don't talk about it in the interview, because they won't give you the job. So if you say, I've got a holiday booked for Bali in July, can I still do that if I get the job? They will just say, no, we'll go with someone who can start right now. But if they love you and they give you the job, then you can say, look, I just want to let you know, and then you can negotiate that first. So you want the job offer before you begin the negotiations of the conditions around the role. And the closer. So this has worked really well for me and others in the past, which is why I include it. So remember, you've got your handout. Make sure with the handout that you have a few copies with you, with your 5 ideas on it. And then you've got your folio. So your folio could, again, be your printed out examples. It could be in like a nice plastic cover or something like that you just show them and they give back to you at the end. It's up to you. It could be electronic as well, depending on how the interview is. I think there'll be a lot of Zoom interviews going on right now. So it really depends. But at the end of the interview, when they're sort of saying, thank you very much, then you say, look, I've brought a folio with me if you'd like to see some of the examples of my previous work. And then when they're looking over your work, you could just say, this is a post I did for Lorna Jane when I did work experience there. It had a really good response. This is when I made a video for such and such, just explaining, giving more context around what's in the folio. Then they give the folio back, or they've finished looking at it. And then you say, I've also put together a few ideas that I had for the role. You may already do these things, but if not, please feel free to use them and give them the handout, because it shows that you are so interested in the job. You've already started really thinking about actionable things you can do in it. And it also shows that you're professionally generous, because you're willing to actually, even if you get the job or not, you're willing to actually give them something. Rather than just going there to try and take the job, you're just happy to give them some of your ideas as a nice way to close it. So then you give them your handout and shake their hands and say, well, probably not shake their hands now, but say goodbye. And as you, let's say, air shake their hands, you could say, it was a great meeting and thank you so much for the interview. Again, always say thank you at the end of the interview. But then it doesn't end there, say thank you and head off. But the next day, send a thank you email, because so many people don't, and it really shows you in a great light. And I read an article not that long ago where they've had the actual company waited to the next day with the shortlist to see who sent a thank you email, and they got through to the next stage, and the people who didn't get through. So it's just a really nice way to, again, highlight your positive values and qualities by, again, saying thank you for the opportunity. So you should probably, if you don't have all the people's names on the panel, you could send it to the person you originally sent that first cover email to. So dear, their name, because you've found that out previously. Thank you so much for the opportunity to interview for whatever the role was yesterday. It was great to meet you and the rest of the panel, or great to meet the panel if you didn't actually meet them face to face, and to find out more about the company. Please feel free to contact me if you'd like me to provide any further information. Thank you again, and kind regards. And then that is it. So it's just a really nice way to end the interview on a really positive note.